Who are you and what are you doing on my show?
You've forgotten me already.
You've been absent for a while. I can't help but notice.
I have. I wish I could not help but notice. Oh.
So my first question is, did you bring a note from home?
I have a change of address form to process, so
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I guess it's so you're new to this district.
Oh, jeez, yes. Never move.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Certainly not willingly.
It's been a long month.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. So I am now happily ensconced in a town called Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
So you're Wisconsin.
I am Wisconsin.
Yeah, okay.
I even have some Wisconsin cheddar cheese in my refrigerator.
Have I given you my mailing address? Is that you still have that, right?
Yeah, I have it. Why?
Okay, good. Just checking, no reason.
Are you a cheese fan?
I have been known to sample a bite occasionally. Certainly no more than once an hour.
I will go to the Mars Cheese Castle and fill a basket for Christmas for you.
Nice. The Mars Cheese Castle?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Wow.
Driving,
one assumes it's a castle of cheese. I mean, what else could it be?
That is exactly what it appears to be. Driving north from Chicago to Manitowoc. It's a drive I made a couple of times. We came up to Wisconsin a few times because this is Allie's hometown. Mm-hmm. Along the way, you pass the Mars Cheese Castle, which has a big sign, but the sign looks like it was made in the 1970s. It looks like the sort of sign that would be outside a diner in the 70s.
This is awesome.
And are you looking at it?
I am looking at it, yes. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's apparently a cheese shop in the shape of a castle.
That is the most accurate description ever.
Yeah.
It totally is.
I have not yet stopped and gone inside, but every time we go past, I say like, let's go to the Mars Cheese Castle.
I'm looking inside of it, and you definitely need to go inside. There's a what do you call that thing? A hanging chandelier kind of thing, right?
Okay.
With numerous lights upon it, and a number of antlers all around it, hanging on it as well. It's amazing.
Cheese doesn't come from antlered animals. I'm confused by this. What?
Certainly it does. You've never had deer cheese?
No. Wait, no, is this a real thing? Do I have to look this up?
No, probably not. Probably not, but they do have Amber Valley Vintage Sriracha Cheddar. No Sriracha Cheddar for me. No spicy cheeses. I'm not a spicy cheese kind of guy.
I'm not a spicy person in general. I used to be, but
nor am I.
Yeah, my stomach has aged. My stomach is actually a lot older than I am, based on its reaction to pretty much everything.
Yeah. Oh, but I see. What is this beer cheddar cheese curds? Oh, sign me up twice. That's good. All right, that lovely. There's a cheese shop and it looks like a castle and that's pretty darn awesome. So
it is nowhere near us. It's about an hour and a half away from where we ended up, but it's there.
Sacrifices.
Yep, understood. Yeah,
that's pretty good. I like that. So you've moved closer to cheese.
I have moved closer to cheese. Also beer. Beer is a very prominent thing here.
Yes,
and
I am told.
Football.
Sadly, yes.
Well, I actually had to sign an affidavit swearing or basically forsaking all other football teams and pledging undying loyalty to the Green Bay Packers. Mm-hmm. Especially because we are 15 minutes from Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
A city which was a great disappointment to me. Because there is nothing around the state. It's called the city of Green Bay.
Uh-huh.
And you would think, because it's a city and it's big enough to have the football team of the state and the football stadium, that it would somehow be a prominent city. Now, I'm not expecting Chicago or, New York or whatever. I'm expecting something on the order of like St. Louis or Milwaukee even. And it is not. It is several strip malls, an open field with a stadium in the middle, and a restaurant. Basically, I can't even call it a restaurant. It's like basically a deli. It's a big deli called Kroll's, which is across from the stadium. And it is apparently famous for being the restaurant of the Green Bay Packers or whatever.
Oh, okay.
The service is terrible and the food is terrible.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
typical American sporting event.
Anyway, I am mostly happy here though, now that we've finally gotten settled.
Can you confirm one thing for me before we move on from Green Bay?
Sure.
Is the bay, in fact, green?
It is not. That was
Fine.
7th on the list of disappointments.
Gee whiz. Mm-hmm. Okay, carry on.
And you know what? I am just going to say, because I know a lot of people have been following us for a long time, that I can just say everything that could possibly have gone wrong in this move has. Okay. I am just keeping the streak alive. I'm not going to go through all the stories of busted furniture that was ordered and computers that had to be sent back and sent again and monitors that were broken and everything else. Nothing went right the first time. Okay. Ultimately, we are comfortable. We have everything we need except for a bed frame, which will be coming sometime in September. They're not sure which. Apparently weevils ate the wood or something. I assume that's the reason for our bed frame to suddenly have gone from being in stock and to out of stock. And it's one piece. It's like these slats. The slats that go underneath the bed to keep it from falling out of the bottom of the bed frame. Suddenly out of stock, despite the fact the rest of the bed frame is in stock. They have no idea except sometime in September when these pieces of wood, these planks of wood will be back in stock. So, yeah.
I got a dumb question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you not just go to the local equivalent of Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a sheet of plywood to put down there?
I
could, the right size.
But they will not ship the rest of the bed without it. So they will not give me the other components of the bed frame until all components are in stock.
Okay. All right.
So yeah. The thing I should emphasize is, and I think I mentioned this when we did the Word of the Week chat the other night. Allie and I, when we were living in Chicago, we were living in a space that was not really designed for two people. And we had furnished it with whatever we could fit in there that we could afford at the time. So when we moved up here, we suddenly had a lot of very empty space, a lot of really old furniture, and some things had actually been damaged in the move, by my own stupidity partly, and by clumsiness on the part of movers partly. So, basically we had to not only move, we had to refurnish almost the entirety of the apartment. And then as soon as we started getting set up, things started dying on us. The coffee maker died 2 days after my computer burst into flames. Also, our TV went. So the TV died. So we got a new TV and we went with a little bit bigger TV because they had come down in price. And unfortunately, even though my old, what do you call it? Entertainment unit has a universal mount on it for all flat screen TVs.
Right. Yours doesn't fit.
Of course. So the next day, we're back out shopping for entertainment units because the TV is just like laying on the floor. So this is what everything has now happened except for one piece of furniture that needs to be replaced and one piece of furniture that will be in stock someday. But everything took 2 or 3 tries and twice as much time as it would have taken a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's great.
So that's where I've been. How have you been?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Leslie for ably filling in for you on the book thing and continuing to do so going forward from this point.
Yep. Thank you for getting me out of the homework, Leslie.
There you go.
And continuing to do so.
I've been doing pretty well. I think I have solved the fountain pen thing.
Oh, have you?
It's solved. I have the pen I want that does what I want it to do. I require no further pens. So that obsession is effectively at an end, having been solved.
I wish my girlfriend would find that you got started with this addiction.
I have that effect on people, apparently. I guess. I don't know. So obviously, having finished with one obsession,
mm-hmm.
I had to pick up a new one.
Sure.
Okay. I'm a whittler now. Did you know that? I whittle things out of wood. I whittle out of wood, yes.
With a little knife and...
with a little knife and everything.
Carve little duck whistles and stuff?
Well, no duck. See, that's an interesting thing. You mentioned the duck whistle thing and whatnot. And there's apparently there's this thing, and I don't understand it, having, just arrived new to the scene. I don't understand why it is that every woodcarver / whittler, and there's a difference, but I won't get into it, has to carve these things in particular. A large spoon,
mm-hmm.
a series of interconnected wooden chain links.
Okay, I did not know about that one.
Yeah, that was a thing to me, and apparently these things called wood spirits. Why they're called wood spirits, I don't know. They are basically wizard faces on chunks of wood.
Okay.
That's it. Those are like the 3 required things. And I have no use for 2 of them.
So wait, which one do you have a use for?
Well, I see, the thing is, I got to thinking, it would be interesting if I could get to a point where instead of having to buy miniatures for games, I could just carve my own. See?
Okay, fair enough.
Hand carved. That's really the whole attraction to me, is carving little people and little animals and things like that to use as my miniatures for the games and whatnot. Because, everybody paints the things and, assembles them and, it's all my own personal touch and, very specific. Well, mine is even better. Because then I avoid the whole, I can't find a piece with the right bits on it. Because I could just carve the right bits.
Is this just one-upmanship because I started painting miniatures that you have
totally is. Totally. No, but I picked it, so I've started whittling, and I'm enjoying it. Believe it or not, really thoroughly enjoying it.
I'm glad to hear that, and I do believe it.
It's very, very, very restful, very relaxing, very peaceful, and fun. I get to make all kinds of things.
What have you made so far?
I've really only finished 3 practice pieces just to get my hand in and kind of, check out the equipment and see what all the bits are about, see whether I can actually do what it is I think I want to do. And it turns out I probably can. So I've made a little man with a beard and a pipe and all kinds of neat stuff. And I've made just basically an object with which to practice shapes and corners and curves and that sort of thing, It's like a trapezoid with a circle on top of it and a pyramid on top of that. So, just to, like I say, to get shapes and corners and things practiced. And then I made a little dinosaur friend.
Oh, little dinosaur. What type of dinosaur?
The type of dinosaur that stands on 4 legs and has his tail up in the air and a head and a body. That kind of dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
It's recognizably a dinosaur. It is not recognizably any particular species of dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
It's like it couldn't be anything but a dinosaur. But anyway, so I've done that, and then the other thing I've taken up just on a whim for no particularly good reason is I apparently am now a more regular Twitch streamer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I started this last week and streamed a few games I was playing and whatnot, and then I found what is it called? Tales from Candlekeep. Tomb of Annihilation. So it's, there's a colon in there.
Uh-huh.
And what it is basically a tactics game.
Really?
Yeah, tactics video game. Everything's turn-based, everything, everybody, it feels a lot like it should be in 4E instead of some version of 5E, but there you go. And it's okay so far. I've enjoyed it. I've had a couple of laughs out of it, and that's enough to make me keep playing it. So I've been streaming that, and then moving those videos over to my personal YouTube channel. Because apparently Twitch doesn't like to keep videos any more than they have to.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll do that unless you explicitly tell them not to delete your videos. They do.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny thing, though. I'm looking at the Steam page for Tales of the Candlekeep of Annihilation of the Tomb.
Right.
It looks very much like it is a video game adaptation of the Adventure System board game, Tomb of Annihilation. And the reason you think it feels like it belongs in 4th edition is because the Adventure System was originally developed using a modified 4th edition rule set.
Well, there you go. You've explained everything.
Yeah.
Clarissa explains it all.
What was the first one? Wrath of a No, not Castle Ravenloft, not Wrath of a Chardalon. I can't remember what the first Adventure System game was.
Yeah, I think ODog pointed out something similar to me. He happened to watch one of the streams the other night, and he said it was similar to the board games. But that's fine. I'm having fun with it. I'm a little disappointed I didn't get to make my own characters, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, I just want to be clear. That was not a pejorative at all. I actually like the Adventure System games. Oh, cool. I think they were pretty well done.
Cool.
They are a lot of fun. Wrath of a Chardalon is actually one of my favorite games.
Neat.
Yep.
I got the Candlekeep Tomb Annihilation adventure thing because I'm a Amazon Prime thing, and then you get Twitch Prime as part of that package, right? And then Twitch Prime hands out free games.
Yeah.
So that was a free game that was handed out to me.
Oh, nice.
And so I decided I would check it out and see if it was any fun at all, and it was, and so I streamed some of it. And Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday nights are, at this point, I think my regular streaming nights. I don't know. That might change, that might not change. I'll put a link to my Twitch channel, and you can check it out if you want to. That sort of thing.
Very cool.
Anyway, that's what I've been up to, entertaining myself. I feel like it's been a while, so I'm going to give a dad update.
Okay, yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, Dad is awesome. He's doing extremely well. He, for all intents and purposes, he has entirely healed up from the both the surgery, the emergency surgery, and from that bed sore he has been experiencing. In fact, that bed sore has cleared up this week, and he's looking pretty good.
Wow, that took a long time.
Yeah, he's getting around inside the house on his own without aid of any sort of assistive device. And when the smoke is not in the air around here, because we are on the West Coast, and in case you haven't noticed, the entirety of the West Coast is on fire.
As it has been, yeah.
Yeah. So when the air clears up sufficiently around here, there's not a lot of smoke hanging around. We go outside and he walks around. He's got a little cane he takes with him. We go up and down the sidewalk. He's building strength back into his legs and all that seems to be going real well. He's in a lot less pain. He's in a lot less discomfort. He has even been known to smile occasionally over the last several days. So,
wow.
If anything, that's an improvement over when he was fine.
So he came back better than before.
Yes. Yeah, he's doing really well.
That's good.
We're not at all worried about him. He has to go in probably October sometime. Has to go in October, and they have to do a little something to his prostate. But other than that, everything's cool.
Very nice.
Yep, that's my updates. There's the stuff. The majority of it is just going to be questions for you.
Questions for me?
Well, and a lot of it, yeah. I think so. The first question...
Is this in the form of feedback?
Yeah, well, it's in the form of feedback and a lot of other stuff, too.
Okay.
All right.
I
know it's quite a lot to put on you right off the bat.
Oh, that's okay.
I would like you... This is the major question. This is the primary question which has been bothering everyone since the last episode you were on, okay?
Okay.
This is the biggie. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
I need you to pronounce the word that is now entering your chat.
Necromancer.
Aha! See, we have a problem.
No, we actually don't.
No.
I don't even know what it is yet, but I can tell you it is not a problem. Okay.
Everybody else in the world, apparently, pronounces this word necromancer.
Necromancer.
Yes. Not
right.
necromancer. So what is wrong with you?
Okay, well, let me ask you now. I'm going to type a word.
Uh-huh.
How do you pronounce that word?
Necromancy.
No, that's wrong. All right, fine.
Okay. So where did you pick up this? You think this is like a dictionary pronunciation, do you?
I don't care what the dictionary says.
I'm just curious because let me see here.
Yeah, you're looking at it, aren't you?
I'm looking at it, and
yep.
I'm. It's.
That the first syllable, the NE, is the accented syllable.
But
yeah,
that's interesting.
It's contested pronunciation.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So screw all y'all.
Huh. But I still can't make Merriam-Webster pronounce it necromancer.
Wait, that's not what I said.
Yeah, it's just necromancer. I think you're off.
I don't care.
Well,
sir,
I'm certainly
have
off the
no
hook.
authority on pronunciation.
I'm certainly off the hook then. If you can get away with that, I'm off the hook forever.
I have left you alone about your pronunciation for quite some time.
Yes, you have.
Okay.
It's been very nice.
Okay. Even though it still delights me to no end hearing. Okay. This word. Say it for me.
Oh dear, this wolf.
That's not how you say it when you are reading a Word of the Week script.
That's a wolf.
The L disappears from your speech and you call it a wolf.
Really?
Yep, you call it a wolf.
Wolf. Huh.
I think it's because I've known a few other people who have said it like that.
Maybe it depends a lot on what the word in front of it is.
Yeah, maybe. But I've known a bunch of people who drop the L and call it a woof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And every time I hear it, it just delights me. So.
I know it's supposed to be werewolf, but often I find myself going werewolf.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there you go. There it is.
So that is, yeah, I know. I have regionalisms that have plagued me for life, plus the fact that I've read outside my vocabulary and all that good stuff. It's fun. You should try it sometime. Okay, so that's the big question out of the way.
Mm-hmm. That was the big one, huh?
That was the biggie. That was the huge big one.
All right, then it's all downhill from here.
It's easy. Everything else is easy. Some of you may remember that I wanted to see what your local comics looked like in your newspaper. Wanted to see what you had available to you and all that kind of stuff. Apparently, I neglected to take into account the fact that absolutely no one gets their own paper anymore. Because only one person sent me a comic. And that was from Norway.
That's why I couldn't understand Dilbert.
Yeah, that's why none of that. Ingjald from Norway sent me a picture of his local comics section out of his newspaper, which I subsequently passed on to Scott here.
Which it was actually rather sad.
Yeah, I know. He points out that it's a mix of both Norwegian and American comics, with the note that the American comics tend to fall flat because the punchlines don't translate at all, or aren't translated well at all.
Which raises a question about the publisher of the newspaper.
Yeah.
And their choice to include these comics rather than... Are there just no comic artists in Norway?
You know, there's plenty of them, and looking at them, as near as I can tell, the comics he's got in this section are Zitz, Dilbert, and Hagar the Horrible. Which
I don't know if I would... I'm surprised that one would be in a Scandinavian newspaper.
Yeah, and these are
you know what I mean?
I know your point. Those are the American ones that are in, and then the rest of them are I have a hard time describing them because for one thing, I don't understand, the language at all. So I have no idea what they're about. But by just looking at them, at least one of them is heavily goth influenced.
Wait, you mean goths the emotional high schoolers, or goths the Germanic tribe?
The emotional high schoolers.
Okay.
And anyway, so at least I got to look at one. And they do seem to be, your alternatives seem to be fairly wordy as far as Norwegian comics go, or no words at all.
Well, I don't know much about Norwegian, but could it be one of those things where it takes a lot of words to say
it might.
one short phrase in Norwegian?
It might. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to thank Ingjald for sending them. I appreciate the fact that you were the only one. So guess what? You get a gold star. There.
Which you will have to go to the store and buy yourself, because we're not actually going to mail you a gold star.
No. You're on your own with the gold stars. We just award them. It's up to you to actually acquire and make use of.
You are hereby authorized to present yourself with a gold star.
There you go. We have a lot of questions and things to deal with today. Yeah. So I'm going to try to keep answers short to these things.
Okay.
Without, so
lightning round.
A lightning round, basically, yes.
Okay.
A lightning round. All right. Chris Constantin wrote in by email, wanted to compare the 5e starter set to the red box starter set that you're so fond of. And he wants to know, what would the 5e set need to do differently?
It would actually need to be instructive. Okay, the 5e starter set just contains a rule book, which is just a book of rules. It does not actually instruct you as to how to use the rules to run a game. Remember, the rules of a role-playing game are tools that the GM uses to resolve actions. Nothing in there actually explains to the GM how to resolve actions, or how to even get to the point where they need to resolve actions, like by narrating. It's just a textbook. That's the problem.
Awesome. Jan wrote in by email. He has a question for me. He says, do or did you ever plan to go into voice acting or audiobook reading? No. Nothing I have ever done has been planned.
Good answer.
I have no specific non-plans to do voice acting or audiobook reading at all. You're just going to have to take me in whatever doses you can get. For Scott, he wants to know what the new specs are on the desktop PC.
Okay, it's not anything fancy. It's just a off-the-shelf Dell. Well, not completely off the shelf. It's got a few modifications, but it's just it is a Dell. I can't remember what it is, but it's got an Intel Core i7 processor, 3.2 3.2 gigahertz, 16 gig of RAM, Windows 10, 64-bit. You know the shit. It's a desktop PC. It does have a really nice 34-inch curved monitor, though.
Oh, you got the curved one. That's nice.
I do a lot of stuff side by side.
Uh-huh.
Like I'll have a document that I'm typing open while I'm doing research in another window, or working on a map while I'm working on something else. So I was going to do a 2-monitor setup. And then I realized that instead of doing the 2 monitors, I could just get one big wide monitor, and
That's nice.
Yeah, so
you should take a picture of that and we can put it up in our show notes.
I could do that.
That would be cool. As a follow-up question, he wants to know, do you enjoy building a PC? Is that something you've ever done?
I have never built a PC from scratch. I have upgraded my own PCs over time. Until when I moved to Chicago, I ended up with the laptop. So that's not really as upgradable, but yeah, so no, it's something I've done, but not something that I particularly enjoy doing. It's just a thing I've done.
Okay.
I'm also not a big PC gamer, so my needs for upgrading aren't really too rigorous anyway. So, like the most intensive thing I do is I use Campaign Cartographer, which is based on a CAD engine.
All right.
And I actually have been doing some Unity game design as a hobby now. I've been learning how to do that, and that takes a little bit. So
cool.
That's it.
When did you change Angry DM to GM, and was it due to trademark or other reasons?
A little bit, actually. Let's see. The change was 3 years ago in July. So it was July of 2015. It was right around the time that I started the Patreon and moved. And I did change because of trademark concerns, because that was the point at which I decided I was going to try and actually publish stuff. And although the trademark status of the term Dungeon Master as opposed to Game Master is iffy, and I'm not really seriously worried about being sued, I just didn't want to ever have to worry about it. And besides, I knew someday there would be a day when I was splitting with Dungeons & Dragons to do my own thing, and I didn't want to be forever tied to it as the angry DM, so that's it. Besides, I also like Pathfinder, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so for both of us, do you enjoy crafting for D&D or otherwise in any way, shape, or form? Now, I find that to be a little bit ambiguous, but okay. I whittle. Hi.
Well, there's that whittling thing.
But you're always like making adventures or working on characters or stuff like that as well. So there's that. How about you?
No, I think you're right on that. As being a GM is inherently a creative process. But I also paint miniatures. I knit on occasion. Still learning, but it was originally suggested by a therapist as a way to manage my stress and anger, and I actually did start to enjoy it. And I do enjoy crafting systems in video games. So
good.
Oh, and I also draw all my own maps.
True.
Like I do a lot of mapping, which is
not the same. I would like to see some more of that.
What was that?
I would like to see some more of that.
Yeah, I can do it now. Part of setting up my new desk involved me setting up a dedicated area for mapping.
Oh, nice.
So that, precisely because some people have asked me to do more mapping streams.
I presume that means you have more desk real estate than what I saw.
I have now one of those big U desks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was on sale. It's like $200 at Office
Nice.
Max. I was looking for new desks. I walk in there. They've got this gorgeous cherry. It's called a Stafford desk. It's a big U desk. It's like $200. I'm like, done.
Do you have it set up in a defensible corner of your room?
It's not great because when I'm facing certain things, I have my back to the window, and facing other things, I have my back to the door.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. So, fortunately, there are trees outside both the windows that really interfere with the lines of sight, so snipers would have a problem.
Okay.
I'm now, as we're joking about this, I'm actually peering out the window. Like, well, I guess a sniper could set up on that roof.
It's great. Did writing a blog give you a thicker skin?
I guess a little bit. It's a necessity. But I've always had kind of a thick skin. I mean, thick skin actually comes from, about, just being secure in yourself. So being able to, number one, accept criticism, and actually consider criticism and say, could this be true? Could I be wrong, or could I be better at this, or whatever? And part of it just comes from being able to say, nah, this person's just a jerk and I'm secure in myself and I don't have to worry about what they say. Like my self-worth and my worldview are not so delicate that one idiot on the internet can ruin him. It usually takes 5 or 6 idiots.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've always had a thick skin, but blogging did require me to use it a lot. Especially the way I blog.
I've never had that issue, because I tend to write more politely than I think. but not in particular. I mean, I haven't run into sort of the same issues that you have in your blogging. I'm confident enough to put down my thoughts on something without really worrying about what the reaction is to it, I suppose. But that's only something I've come to later in life as I've gotten to be more of an adult. I mean, I don't know about you, but I certainly would not have started a blog as a teenager. Not an honest one.
Yeah, no. I don't know. In my early high school days, I had in my early college days, like 19 years old, I had is that about the time that LiveJournal was starting up? I might have had a LiveJournal.
Yeah, well, I did too, but I never did anything with it.
Oh.
Of course, that would have put me about, whatever our age difference is. I don't know. 8 years out from you, I suppose. Anyhow, it's just something I grew into, and to the point where I have reached a point where I just don't care what anybody says about anything anymore. The internet, Twitter, Facebook have all taught me that nobody has anything to say that I really value at this point. Certainly not on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's cruel. Maybe that's unfair.
No, you know what? It's like the value of a person's opinion is directly proportional to how much you value that person to begin with. So, and everybody on the internet, they're all just strangers. They're all just clouds of ones and zeros.
Random comment guy is not going to affect me, I don't think.
And this is what kills me too, if I can say this, which I'm obviously going to say.
Yes.
Because I see it there are some YouTubers and bloggers who I very much enjoy, and I will see them go on Twitter, because even though they are very popular and they get a lot of positive comments, that one negative comment, they feel like they have to call it out and and
Yeah.
like consider it's like, oh, this guy said this, so maybe there is something wrong and maybe I screwed up. And obviously there are the people who just can't take it, and then they like just fall apart when they get a negative comment. I've known
Right.
those people too. But I'm talking more about the person who treats the one comment criticizing them as more valid or more potentially valid than the 1,000 comments they get that are not.
Right.
Like I get people all the time who just don't care for my writing style. And there's a certain point where I just get, yeah, but then I'm not for you.
Right.
If like 1,000 people all told me that they didn't like my writing style, then I would have to sit there and be like, oh, okay, maybe it's time to change because this is, 1,000 people who don't like it. But every once in a while, you get that one person. And, well, that's just one person,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying their opinion isn't valid and they might not have a good reason for their opinion, but, it doesn't mean you have to care.
Mm-mm. And the other ones I don't, and of course we're now destroying the entire purpose of a lightning round. The other ones I don't get are the people who jump up and they're creating something, right?
Yeah.
But somehow it's against the rules for you to say you don't like what they're creating or whatever. The ones that jump on the internet and on Twitter or whatever and say, well, if you haven't got anything to nice, don't say anything at all.
Yeah, well,
or anything to say to nice, whatever I said.
Which, listen, as a creative person, that attitude is terrible.
Yeah,
because it does not lead to self-improvement. Okay,
and that's not to say everybody's right.
Right.
Like you were saying, but it's like, okay, look at a comment. This is how the critical process works. When you receive criticism or critique, you're supposed to look at whatever you're being criticized for or critiqued on or whatever, and evaluate it in terms of its validity.
Right.
And then decide if it's something you need to deal with or not. You're not just supposed to reject everything out of hand.
Right. And just because something is valid also doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. You could say, right. Yeah, they're right. Like people have said I write a lot. I write very long stuff. I'm very wordy. Like, yes, yes, I am. I am extremely wordy. And that turns some people off, but that is my writing style. And so I'm not denying the criticism, and I'm not saying the people who say it are jerks. It's just, I'm making that choice. But that's what it is to be an artist or, author or whatever, creative person. Yes. That's what it is to put your work out there. Okay. Yeah. Anybody can sit and do a creative thing. Anybody can draw or write or poet or whittle or whatever. But when you put that work out for public consumption, well, it's out there for public consumption. And that has a nice payoff because you get the warm fuzzies of people looking at your stuff and saying, wow, your stuff is really good and I like it and keep doing it. But that also has a cost. And that cost is the people who don't give you the warm fuzzies. Mm-hmm. And in addition, it has the sort of mixed cost payoff of people who will give you valid criticism. Yes, that hurts. It hurts to be criticized and to discover you're not as good at something as you wish you were. But that is also the gateway to being better.
Yeah.
And if you can't take that stuff, you don't belong in the public forum. And this is something, and I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. If you can't take that stuff, the public forum will destroy you. Here's the problem with the internet, okay? It used to be once upon a time that getting that public forum took a lot of work. You couldn't get the whole world to see your art until you had gotten some, say, professors at college to say, oh, you're really good at this, you should pursue it. And then you do your first art show. And then more people show up and they like your work or don't like your work. And then a local art critic writes about your work. And then gradually you're exposed to more and more people. And in that process, you learn how to handle everything that comes with the exposure. Mm-hmm. Now you can just have the exposure. And it doesn't train you for dealing with that exposure. And there are some people who cannot handle the exposure.
Jan would also like to know...
Okay, back to the lightning round.
What is the most beautiful RPG book you own?
All right, you answer first because my answer is going to be your answer, so I have a backup answer.
I have a problem.
Yeah.
I have two books, two RPG books that I would consider the most beautiful RPG books I own. Actually, it's kind of almost three now, but we'll stick with two.
Okay.
The problem is they are not the most beautiful RPG books I've seen. In fact, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I thought I had this list narrowed down to two, and it's now grown to four just as I'm talking about this. Then there's five, but I've seen better, okay? But as far as the ones I have owned, mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Aces and Eights from Kenzerco,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to include Tales from the Loop, which I picked up at Gen Con not this year, but the year before.
Huh. See, I expect you to say Hackmaster from Kenzerco because that monster manual is beautiful.
I don't have the monster manual.
Oh, that monster manual is gorgeous.
Yeah, and I don't have the GM's guide. I just have the player's handbook, which I also got at Gen Con.
I never got the GM's guide. So I figured you were going to say Hackmaster, so I came up with a runner-up choice.
Mm.
The Shadowrun books.
Yeah?
Are beautiful books.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, the game has over the years become so complicated that it's not worth playing. They have just overcludged that system to all hell. But the books keep getting more and more gorgeous. The latest hardback is a beautiful book.
Nice.
It really brings the world to life.
Now I have two runners up of my own.
Okay.
The first runner up is
you have a real problem with the superlative here.
I do. Yes. The runners.
I had one answer, and then I chose a different answer because I knew you'd give it.
Yeah. The runners up are City of Mist, which has some really excellent art direction that is on theme with the book and suits the theme of the book very well.
I've never seen it.
And the other one is an old game. It was originally a French game, which was then some years ago translated into English. It's called Agon, Agone.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it is. It is also very nice, very beautiful, very, very good art in it. But that's where I'm stopping. That's it. Okay, so you've got your two first choices, and then your reserve winners. It's like a dog show.
The stuff in Agon is beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's inside the book. It's all that the pencil or I guess pen art with the like what do you call that? Like the chiaroscuro shading, I think it is.
Yes,
it's really nice.
Yeah, that's it, and it's I don't know. See, like I said, there are other books that are really, really gorgeous, but I don't own any of them. So this is really just out of what I have. I've seen some that are way better than this, and I've seen some who, while their art is not gorgeous, it is exactly what that particular book in that particular genre needs. You know what I mean? It's like the perfect match,
right?
But not beautiful.
Well, that's better though, isn't it?
I think so. Because I have seen some really gorgeous art in some really terrible games that the art is the wrong sort of theme for that game.
Right. Where the art might, like if you pulled out the art and hung it on a wall, it would look nice. It would look nice in a calendar, but it doesn't fit the game. So it's not, I think the art is failing at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Or the art isn't failing, but the art direction.
Right.
So,
yeah. So I don't know. That's, that's why I'm kind of hung up. There's two there and then there's two alternates. And it's like, that's because the tone of the book has to match the art for the art to really be in the category of being able to be beautiful for that particular book. You know what I mean? that help any? No, but okay.
Well, no, I think that's important because there's a distinction between the question of what RPG has the most beautiful art and what is the most beautiful RPG book.
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful RPG book necessarily has to take into account the whole product.
Right.
Because you know what? By that statement though, I would say that the 3.5 D&D books, really gorgeous books through and through. The art style, the embellishments on the pages, the cover art. Yeah. And it was all very unified in style too, which I liked.
Yeah. I will never fault the art in any of the FFG Star Wars games.
Mm-hmm.
The Star Wars RPGs, because it's absolutely spot on. It's perfect. It's evocative. It gets you into the mood of the game. It's representative of what's going on, that kind of stuff. It fits the universe perfectly. It fits the rules perfectly. It's great art. I would not necessarily say that makes it the most beautiful RPG book I own. Right. It probably is the one with the most spot on art, but I don't know that beautiful qualifies in there. It's not ugly. It's just, it's the right art for that book.
It's functional.
Yeah.
It's a workhorse.
Yeah. So I, it's just one of those things. The book with the most terrible art I've ever seen, has got to be the first edition AD&D Monster Manual, and the Game Masters, the Dungeon Masters book, and the Player Handbook. Some of that early stuff, come on, they were just comic panels. The one that always stands out in my mind, I think it's the Wizard and the Barbarian standing there in this hallway. And the wizard is holding this globe in his hand. And he says, I don't know what these are, but something's not right or whatever. It's like Pac-Man dots. You remember that one?
I think so. The one I remember is where they have the scepter with that ends in like a hand. Mm-hmm. And the wizard saying, well, it's either a +5 back scratcher or it allows a wizard to throw the various Bigby's hand spells.
Yeah. It's like, this is not helping me with this game. It's not helping me take this game seriously.
Yeah. And we got after poor Xanathar.
Yeah, I know.
Apparently there was precedent.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that answers all of Jan's questions. Okay. Let's go to Nathan's questions.
Yeah, I see. He also has all of those questions.
Yes.
He has
a list.
Moving on.
Nathan is from the Delve podcast, where they talk about game mechanics and game design and that kind of stuff. They talk with game designers a lot of independent ones.
Right.
So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you look up the Delve podcast. But he prefaced this by saying that he didn't think these were questions that Delve was the right podcast to answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So he's throwing them at us because he thinks we've got better answers to these questions than he could come up with.
Okay. Well, I can say he's not going to like my answer to the second question.
Right.
So.
Okay, so his first question is, if a role-playing system can be completely overhauled by the players, why do you need a specific system?
To that question, a question. If you can build a car yourself, why rebuild a classic car?
Mm-hmm.
Or why buy a car and modify it?
He prefaces this all by saying every game designer he's talked to, and even game designers, from major companies and that kind of stuff, every one of them has said at some point in their discussion of their rules, but hey, it's your game. Do what you want to do.
Right. But that's a conceit of the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you get down to it, a role-playing game is a system whereby you, the GM, create games for people to play. Even if you're running a published adventure, you're still acting the part of, the game designer to some extent, just in the fact that you have to respond to what the players do. And when the players do something unexpected, you have to be ready to improvise, get things back on track or whatever. And the players can create their own characters. They don't drop themselves into already existing roles. The GM can create any narrative, and the whole game system is basically a set of tools for DIY gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why a game designer of an RPG would say, yeah, it's your game, do what you want, is because that's part of the conceit of the hobby. It doesn't mean that the system itself is useless just because you can modify it. I mean, what having systems do is allows you to pick the level of engagement you want when it comes to creating the game. Okay, so you can just run a published adventure and just execute it and see what the players do and have fun that way. Or you can write your own adventures, or you can hack the rules, or you could develop your own rule systems to lay on top of a pre-existing system, or you can write your own game from scratch. You could do all of that stuff. But if specific systems didn't exist, everybody's only option would be write your own rule system from the beginning. Okay, that's why specific systems exist. If you're the sort of person who wants to write your own system, then yeah, you don't need a specific system. But
have you ever encountered a game designer who has said flat out, no, don't mess with my rules. They're perfect the way they are, or they're correct the way they are, and that's the way I want you to play?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm not going to name names, but I have heard some indie game designers who it's a matter of ego, which is why I'm not going to name names, because I can't do this without actually being a little insulting. But yeah, there are some people who are game designers because they think they know better than the players.
Okay. All right.
But yeah.
So that leads into question number 2 here. How much modification can you make to a system and still say you're playing that game?
This is just the ship of what's his name?
Theseus.
This is just the ship of Theseus argument.
Right.
Or the argument of the axe, right? Your grandfather's axe, or the argument of the beard. How many hairs can you pull out of your head before you no longer have a beard?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The answer is there is no answer. Okay. And to some extent, the answer is, you know what? I mean, the practical answer, because there is a practical answer. Okay. And the practical answer is also highly subjective. And the practical answer comes from the fact of, if you said to your friend, hey, come on over, I'm playing, I'm running a game. And he said, what game are you running? And you say, I'm running a modified version of Dungeons & Dragons. And he likes Dungeons & Dragons. He's like, okay, I'll come over and play. And then he sits down at your table and discovers that the game has gone so far off Dungeons & Dragons to his taste that he does not like the game you sold him. And he thinks you lied to him because you were not honest about it. It's not modified D&D at this point. You wrote your own game and you're just calling it D&D. At that point, then there is a practical answer, but it varies from person to person.
Right.
Beyond that discussion, it's all just pointless philosophical BS.
All right.
That's my answer.
Fair enough. Can you implement storytelling into the mechanics of a system to account for role playing?
Wait, you don't have an answer?
I know, because I agree with you. It's like, okay, so answer to question number 2 is yes, Theseus' ship, the grandfather's axe. It, doesn't matter how many bits you replace or whatever, you've still got a basic axe that performs a function.
But is it your grandfather's axe? And why do you care?
It's arguably it is to a greater or lesser extent your grandfather's axe, and it only matters if your grandfather suddenly wants it back and doesn't recognize it when you hand it to him.
Which actually, that's very interesting, because I think we just answered the ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
It's like, it depends on the criteria. That is why the only time you have to answer that question is when there is a reason that it has to be the ship of Theseus and not just a ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then the answer is going to depend on why someone is asking the question.
Yeah. It's just up to that point, who cares?
Right.
It performs the functions of an axe or a ship, and you know, as long as nobody who originally had it wants it back, then you're fine. You just keep going.
Right. And if someone comes along who cares, the important thing is not that they care. The important thing is why they care. And that gives you a criteria for evaluation.
There you go.
Right.
Done and done. Thank you.
Okay. Third.
Moving on. Third, can you implement storytelling into the mechanics of a system to account for role-playing?
To account for...
Do I understand the question is, I think, the first problem.
I don't.
Fate is arguably storytelling mechanics.
Yeah, but okay, so what is storytelling?
Well, I don't know.
Right.
It's not a clear question to me.
See, this is the thing. Story is emergent and holistic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is the story of the game is the game. Or rather, it's the experience of the game. That's what the story is. Every game tells a story. Okay, and so when people say, could you storytelling, everybody has a different idea for what storytelling mechanics actually mean. For example, Fate is, it specifically builds the narrative roles of the characters into the game. It says, this character plays this role in the narrative. And here are the mechanics that push the player to fill that role in the narrative and punish the player for deviating from that role. Or make it hard for the player to deviate from that role.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's not storytelling now. That's a narrative mechanic. And specifically, it is character in relation to the narrative.
Right.
And role-playing is just the act of making decisions. It's just playing a role. It means making the choices that you think a character would make. Which again, the fact that the system allows a GM to adjudicate the outcome of any action means they all have role-playing.
I'm going to refuse to answer this question on the grounds that it needs clarification. That it doesn't make sense as a question as presented now.
Right.
There are too many things that aren't well defined.
Yes.
I'm also going to say the same thing about this fourth question. Can you implement rule modification into the mechanics of a system to account for homebrewing?
What does that mean?
I don't know. Nathan, clarify these two questions. Come in here and just, define your terms for us. And then restate your question so they make sense.
I will say this, though. Mm-hmm. One of the best things that a game designer can do to encourage home brewing, or to at least make it as painless as possible, is be transparent. Explain what all the bits of your system do and why they do that. And how they interact. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give us the tools to understand why we might want to make changes or not make changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, fifth and final question. Is it possible to play a role-playing game without a system at all? Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Yes.
We've had this exact conversation.
We have. Yeah.
When you were a kid and you used to play Cops and Robbers, you were playing a role-playing game without a system.
Yes, that's practically the default example in every single role-playing core book ever written.
Right.
Cops and Robbers.
Yep.
Although I did one time run across a set of what was it? Mongoose Publishing did the little SRD books, right?
Uh-huh.
And in those SRD books, instead of using Cops and Robbers, they actually used a Tea Party as their default example of role playing, which was kind of neat, I thought. And then, of course, at some point, the Tea Party is disrupted by a teddy bear or something crashing in through a window and opening fire on everybody. But that's neither here nor there.
I used to use House as the example.
Yeah?
Especially if I was... Oh, my God. This is going to get me in trouble, and I'm going to say it anyway because I don't care about getting in trouble. Especially if I was teaching girls to play. Because they tended to play House more than they played Cops and Robbers.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So...
Sure. Okay.
Or I would use action figures and Barbie dolls. Because that's the same
There
thing.
you go. Yeah.
Same thing. When you play with your action figures, when you play with your Barbie dolls, you're acting it out.
Excellent.
So.
All right. You may remember the last show was quite heavy on the cannibalism theme.
Yeah. So it was quite a fun one for me to then say, I'm on vacation, you cope.
That's right.
You deal with the feedback. I gotta go. See you in a month.
So I coped merely by recording. I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff here. This is another one of those discussions where you would be well advised to head over to our website for the previous show's episode and read the discussion there, because it is at once fascinating, informative, and will make you think very strongly about why you think the way you do. Okay? We've got a lot of good feedback on the cannibalism stuff. I am just going to go through and hit the highlights.
Okay.
If you come across a point you want to discuss, we can do that. But I don't think we can advance the discussion any further than it's already been advanced in our comments.
I think we talked it to death, so it's better just to hit the highlights.
Right. Malachurk, I think, is the name. That's how I'm gonna pronounce it. I will be wrong, which will surprise nobody. But he posits a state of grace creation versus a non-state of grace creation as determining which things it's okay to eat and which things it is not in a fantasy setting.
That actually is the official explanation in the Angryverse, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Citizen wrote in to wonder about, if you kill a skeleton, collect the bones, grind them to dust, and salt a field with them, if you eat the food from that field, are you then dealing with secondhand cannibalism? Commodore wrote in, how about where do you stand on cannibalism if it is as part of a ritual of honor for the deceased? And some discussion on that.
Mm-hmm.
Leland pointed out the empathy problem of cannibalism.
Right.
Okay. Bill wrote in to suggest that if we wanted some interesting takes on cannibalism and its uses in society and whatnot, that we might want to read S.M. Stirling's Emberverse series.
Okay.
Or even Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land.
Okay.
All right. GM Angus, I'm hoping that's right, or Agnes, I'm just guessing, would like to point out that he has in fact eaten horse with Mongolians.
Mm-hmm.
Amos cites the desecration of the body and not following the wishes of the deceased as being one of the motivators for avoiding cannibalism.
You know what? Just on that horse thing quick.
Yes.
You ever see those signs that PETA put out? Where it shows silhouettes of different animals, like it's a bunny and a dog and a cat and a cow and a yada 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 all the way up to person.
Right.
And then it says like, where do you draw the line?
I draw the line at person.
Right? And everybody puts it like right between pig and horse.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
it just depends where you're from.
But the thing is, like, they're trying to prove this point about how arbitrary it is that we'll eat certain animals and not others. Like, it was supposed to be this big, like, existential crisis, and everybody who looks at that side just says, right there.
Yeah, pig, horse, there you go, done.
But you realize that's arbitrary, right? Yep, don't care, get me a pork chop.
That's right. Haster from New Zealand, whose name we will not say 3 times, points out rightly that the history of cannibalism is more than just the European history of cannibalism, and he provided a helpful link regarding eating one's enemies.
that is a helpful link. I will check that out.
Yes.
I have many enemies.
James provides the word placentophagy and then runs away.
Yep.
Dale points out that there isn't really a distinction between culture and morality along with cannibalism. Let me rephrase that. Dale points out that there isn't really a distinction between culture and morality. They tend to be one and the same thing. Your culture comes with its own morality. along with pointing out cannibalism's broaching of the 3 major taboos. It's a very long post, and it's very interesting to read through, especially if you just want to find out what the 3 major taboos seem to be.
Wow, you just did a really good ad for that one.
Mm-hmm. So that is all on our website at digressionsandragons.com. Episode, whatever it was, 44 now, I think. Mm-hmm. So if you would like to follow that discussion, and I highly recommend
43, the master plan.
43, the master plan.
Yep.
If you'd like to follow that discussion, and I highly recommend that you do, it is, like I say, interesting, informative, and will make you think. That's where to go to find it. Do that thing. Leland wrote into the website, discussing, finally moving on from from the master plan, where we talked about the book we read for last month, Fred the Vampire Accountant, in which I spoke a bit about the next book we would be reading, which was Doctor Who and the Pirate Planet.
Wait, are you reading a novelization of a television show episode?
Not exactly.
Okay, good.
I'll explain that in a minute. I want to get to this first.
Okay.
I did misspeak. I misspoke rather badly, as anybody who is familiar with Doctor Who and the Fourth Doctor and all that kind of stuff. The Key to Time, Leland said, that was the Romana companion, if I recall correctly. She was the 3rd companion of the Tom Baker era after Sarah Jane and Leela, and not counting K9 as a companion. So that wouldn't have been the first series of the Fourth Doctor. You are correct. I misspoke. I meant to say the first series with Romana. There. I've cleared that up. What it is it's actually the author has gone into the original drafts and the original conceptualizations of the Pirate Planet episode written by Douglas Adams.
Okay.
And has compiled that into what might be called an alternate version of that episode, based on all the available drafts and writing and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so you're reading fan fiction based on an episode of a television show?
No. I am reading an alternate version of the exact same episode as written by the writer of that episode.
Mm-hmm.
That has been assembled by somebody else. All right. But anyway, I finished that book today too, and it was well worth the read. Especially the back matter was especially interesting. Anyway, and finally, in our feedback section, Bill writes into the website. He says, "I hope everyone sees this before the 1st of September.
Uh-oh.
Right now, if you sign up for right now, if you sign up for Tor's free email newsletter, you can get the first book of the Black Company series by Glenn Cook for free. The Black Company is a classic fantasy series, and you can't beat my favorite price as a consumer, free.
You can't beat that price. Gives you money.
It gives you money, yes, thank you. That is located at ebookclub.tor.com. I will have a link in the show notes for this episode, at which point you will have a very few days to take advantage of that. In fact, you'll have 2 days to take advantage of that to get yourself a free book. So there. Thank you, Bill, for sending that little bit of information in. We'll pass that along, and I hope everybody will take advantage of it. That concludes the feedback section of the show. Many, many moons ago, Sarah, you and I recorded a show about cannibalism.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
And then
one.
You went away.
Yeah, I remember that too.
You went, and it wasn't, you weren't even hardly gone 3 days. Before WotC and Dungeons and Dragons went nuts.
They were always nuts.
They did weirdness. I mean, genuine weirdness, not just, here's a strange book that exists for a reason we're not too clear on weirdness. This is just flat out weirdness altogether.
Mm-hmm.
First off, they did the thing you swore they could never do.
I didn't swear they could never do it. I swore that when they sold the company, they didn't want it to ever be done. That was 15 years ago, sir.
Right. Okay. Well, apparently things have changed.
Yes, they have.
Because they done did the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You will soon be able to play Dungeons and Dragons in the world of Magic the Gathering in a fully supported official way.
Insofar as full support from the current incarnation of Dungeons and Dragons means anything.
Yes.
I mean, technically, Forgotten Realms is fully supported.
Yeah. In as much as any words in that sentence mean anything at all.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, right?
Well, that is what we are talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
They announced, like I say, practically 3 days after you decided, oh, I'm out of here, pal, and started packing for your move, that what people really, really wanted was a book that integrated the worlds of Magic the Gathering with the world of Dungeons and Dragons. And now you have it.
Uh-huh.
Thoughts?
Doesn't surprise me.
Uh-huh.
And they actually did a PDF thing a few years ago with one of their Magic the Gathering worlds. Because like D&D, Magic is a multiverse, right?
But that was Unearthed Arcana. That wasn't official stuff.
No, that was what was it? They did it in Zendrakar. I can't remember what it was called now. But yeah, but they did it a few years ago. They released a PDF guide to playing D&D in the world of Zendrakar, which made sense because Zendrakar was originally written as a Magic the Gathering world that was supposed to be more evocative of, high fantasy adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it doesn't surprise me that they're doing this with Ravnica, because Ravnica always struck me as a good setting for urban D&D, because basically it's a city that's just run by a bunch of magical guilds.
Uh-huh.
So,
right.
Yeah.
You are, of course, aware of the other thing that Ravnica is. There seems to be a thing where Ravnica is like a nexus of various planes.
Well, oh, okay, yeah.
Which leads me to think that perhaps this is also around because we're getting our what do you want to call it? Is it the like City of Doors kind of thing?
You think that this is going to be the stand-in for Sigil, the City of Doors in the Heart of the Plains?
Yes.
I guess it's possible, but the thing is, like, with that aspect of it, as far as I understand it, because it's been a few years since I was involved in Magic, but obviously Magic is all about planeswalkers. That is, magicians who travel from plane to plane, and all of the major worlds that they have been worlds that involve conflict between different planar factions. Right. So that's not the idea that Ravnica is a nexus of the planes is not like a huge selling point of Ravnica. It's just sort of, it's one of those requisite properties that all Magic the Gathering worlds kind of have, is that they have to have access to the other planes.
Mm-hmm.
So, though Ravnica is very, very Magic heavy. So, anyway. You know what? This is the thing. I'm going to say the same thing I've said about, like, every D&D release that we've talked about. I'm curious about it. The elevator pitch makes me want to check it out, but I know I'm going to be sad when I do. Because I'm always sad.
Sure.
Okay. And and my question is, what are they going to do with this? So great. We have a setting book for the city of Ravnica. What are they going to do beyond that? Because they don't fully support anything anymore. They don't go any farther than that. Okay. A setting book for D&D is just it's the equivalent of one of those The Art of Magic the Gathering books that you sit on your coffee table for Dungeons and Dragons fans.
Oh.
Okay? That's all a setting book is. Okay? It's an excuse to publish the history of the setting in the world, and you know, like the World of Fire and Ice book that you could buy that will tell you the whole history and all the fun details about Westeros, wherever Game of Thrones takes place.
Yeah, middle Westeros or something. I don't know.
Right. And this is just the same crap with D&D on the title. That's all these books are. Okay, they don't by themselves. They're not support. They're just fluff. You know? So, yeah, I'll check it out because I actually really liked the Ravnica setting. In fact, Return to Ravnica, that block of magic, got me back into Magic after I had lapsed for a long time because I really liked the Ravnica setting, and it inspired one of my favorite D&D campaigns that I ran. Because a city-state run by warring factions of wizards is a cool fantasy concept if you want to run an urban intrigue campaign.
Sure.
You know? So,
okay.
So yeah, great. They've got it.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
So, yeah.
No, that's fine. That's completely understandable. It is a book with a setting that is being published for Dungeons and Dragons based on a magic setting. Okay. Fine.
You know
we understand that.
You know what I'd still like from them, though?
What?
Something freaking new.
Oh, okay. Too bad you don't get it.
Now at least they're not republishing an old world now, but they're just republishing an old world from another game.
Right.
Is that all they can do?
And at least we understand what this is that they're publishing.
Sort of.
Right?
Yeah, I mean...
More or less.
Yeah.
It's fairly clear. It's a book, okay?
It's a setting book.
It's a setting book. Great,
Yep.
great. At the same time, they announced the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron.
Yes.
Which is... I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. It's an elaborate playtest?
It's the playtest book you pay for.
What do we say about this?
Well, I guess we should start with facts before opinions.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So it
Fine.
is.
So Eberron.
It's a PDF ebook, ostensibly updating the world of Eberron from 3rd edition to 5th edition. And this book, which you can buy at the Dungeon Masters Guild, includes the unique races of Eberron, mystical dragon marks, new magic items. And this is a living document, and this content will evolve and be updated in response to feedback.
Sure.
Okay. So what they have figured out how to do is monetize Unearthed Arcana.
Okay. But there's still a book to come to deal with this.
Is there?
I'm told. Mr. Mike Merles would like me to believe certain things.
See, well, this is okay. Holy crap. Yeah, because you sent me the images of some of his tweets in this thread.
Right.
And I tried to disentangle the order in which these responses came and stuff, and couldn't figure out what was going on. So ultimately, I actually searched back through his Twitter feed for the threads in question.
Right.
Okay. So what happened was this. Okay. This is, as near as I could tell, they announced this book, and you can't see my air quotes, but I'm making air quotes. They announced this book in air quotes, which is basically a bunch of content that they slapped together that isn't book worthy and therefore would have been an Unearthed Arcana article, but they slapped it all together into a PDF document, and now they're selling it.
Sure.
And people are asking, like, is this official content? Is this a playtest? Basically, people are asking the same thing you're asking. What is this?
Right.
And Mike Merles responded, this is 100% official content.
Right.
Since
official content that can change.
Since it is an ebook, it means we can update content with comments based on UA playtests of the races and the artificer. If we do an Eberron print product, we will design it to complement as much as possible what the PDF presents. Okay.
So, the PDF is a living document that will change continually based on player input, okay? Based on user input.
Can
be updated and changed. Well, whatever.
Right.
The book that Merles is talking about is only a maybe book.
Mm-hmm.
And if it does exist, is going to be based on the PDF that can change, but not include information from the PDF that can change. It will just be complementary to it.
Right. Well, then someone asked, will there be a print on demand option? And Mike Merle, and this is very telling, Merle says lots of people are asking about this, not until the content is 100% sealed. Mechanics will run through UA and be updated in the PDF. Once those are done and artificer added, we'll turn on print on demand. Okay.
So the document that was a living document that would be updated based on player and user feedback will eventually stop being updated on player and user feedback and become a non-living document. Is that correct?
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with the Steam early release program?
I am.
Okay. That's what this is.
Uh-huh.
Okay. They have a book. It's not quite done. They can monetize it anyway. So they're letting people buy it. And then they are going to sell it now and keep updating it as they decide to. And I'm dubious about how frequently they will update it or how long this will run because clearly, you know, in the past, it has taken a long time for Unearthed Arcana stuff to actually find its way into a product and be done.
Right.
Okay. But I have a feeling they'll be watching how much feedback they get to assess whether or not it's worth pursuing any further. Right. And then once it's done, they're going to, you know, finalize it and say, okay, we're done. And these are the final versions of whatever.
Uh-huh.
The reason he's hedging and saying, and if there's a PDF book later, or if there's an actual print book later, it will complement this stuff, but it will include some of the things because we don't want the people who buy the book to miss out on the PDF content. And but we don't want people to feel like they wasted their money, if they buy both and yada, 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 is basically him or Wizards of the Coast covering their butt because absolutely if there is enough interest in this, they are going to do a print product and it will necessarily include almost everything in the PDF because you have to have the races, the artificer class, the dragon marks, or else it isn't Eberron. And if they do that, then that will be based on the playtest stuff. But then they would have people upset that they wasted money on the playtest stuff and then have to buy the print book. So they hedged their bet and said they're going to be complementary products and there will be some stuff in the PDF that probably just won't find its way into the print product as a bone to those people. Right. But ultimately what this is you paying to playtest the content that will be used to maybe develop a future product later if people like it enough. Okay? It's Steam Greenlight. It's Steam Early Access. That's what it is. Except you are going to have to buy the final version to get all the Eberron stuff again. But what's really interesting is the dancing that happened afterwards. Because I could see this person on Twitter asked, Why is it not immediately clear that this is playtesting material you're asking fans to play for? And Merle said, the racing class will be available on UA, and the updates to the PDF are free. And he said, yeah, but that doesn't tell me what happens if you decide to release a full product. Do I have to buy that separately? And he's like, what does full product even mean? Which is totally the Bill Clinton answer. It's like, well, that depends on what your definition of is. Okay. And this is where the book and the theoretical print release will be designed to complement each other, though some material will be duplicated,
Right.
Yeah. So yada, yada, yada. That's basically what this is. That they're monetizing a product that isn't done.
Is this the dumbest way they could have come up with to do this?
No, I can conceive of dumber ways. But it's up there. If there was a contest for dumb ways to release this, it would definitely be a semi-finalist. But this is the thing. This is Wizards of the Coast. They don't know what they're doing. They really don't.
Why would you do it this way? What would be your advantage to doing it this way? Because they won't have done it just out of the kindness of their hearts. That's not the way business works.
Here, I'll tell you why. This is the really ugly, cynical answer. And it has to do with something that is sitting on my desk right now. Okay? Pathfinder 2.0 is coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
They sold their playtest book.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that. I bought a copy because I was curious.
Yep.
Okay? Wizards of the Coast... Someone in Wizards of the Coast, somebody in the business side of Wizards of the Coast, looked at that and said, wait, we can sell playtest stuff? Hold on. Okay. Meanwhile, a bunch of people have been asking for Eberron, but it's just internet people, which is not enough of a market by itself. Right. So the brand team is looking at that saying, there's demand for Eberron, but is there really enough demand? Okay, would it warrant a product release? And somebody put those ideas together and said, what if we sell, because we would normally do this stuff through Unearthed Arcana. What if we sold what we would put out through Unearthed Arcana? And then if there's enough interest in it, we could republish it as a book, another book. And then someone said, well, that would make fans upset because they would be paying for the same thing twice. And I said, okay, what about this? And then this plan was born. That's my guess.
Right.
Okay.
I noticed they do throw out the bone there saying that with this document, this playtest document or whatever, you can now create Eberron-based content for the DM's Guild.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Well, that also gives them some data.
You couldn't before?
Actually, you couldn't.
Mm.
Okay, because all of the Eberron-specific stuff is non-open gaming license.
Mm.
So you couldn't mention any specific names from the Eberron world or any of the specific Eberron details, races, etc. And the stuff you could use from the DM's Guild is only proper names and stuff from 5th edition, as far as I know. So this actually does open up the market so that the DM's Guild can start selling Eberron content, which I guarantee they're also going to be watching to determine whether there's enough demand to warrant selling an Eberron book, a real print run.
Well, then obviously that was the point of the whole thing, was to let people play around in Eberron.
No, the point is... Because if they just wanted to let people play in Eberron, they could have just put it out as free Unearthed Arcana content and been done with it.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is weird and confusing.
No, it's to let people play around in Eberron in a way that people pay for without Wizards having to do much work. Without them actually having to print a book. And then they can always come back and print a book later and get more money if it's worth it.
You're the one who drew the analogy to Steam Early Access. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you, what is the point of a developer putting their product into early access?
Well, you get money before the product is done.
Oh.
Realistically, okay. It costs money to make a product, especially if you're not doing it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so if it's your first product specifically, so you may have hired, artists and programmers and all these other people to help you build your product, and you got to pay those people, and you got to, pay for internet access, and you got to buy computers and all this stuff. And at the same time, because it's your first product, you don't have any way to make money. And if you're a small business that has never had anything before, especially in the video game industry, it's hard to get people to just invest in money. And after 2008, it became immensely harder for small businesses that are untested to get any sort of a loan from a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So early access, just like Kickstarter and other things, is a great way to get money for a product before you had to finish it. So that you can keep the lights on and keep people working. And in that respect, it's actually a good thing. I'm not saying early access is bad, okay?
Okay.
Where I become cynical about it is where you have a company like Wizards of the Coast, who they can finance a product. Okay, they can pay to develop a product. They can pay their staff, they can pay their writers, they can pay their contractors, they can buy a print run. With the money they have, because if you're running a successful business, most of the profits of the business you keep around so that you can make more products later, So they don't need to pull this sort of early access scam. And if they do need to pull it, then I'm worried about how they're running the business.
Yeah. So
I mean, you and I have had this discussion regarding Monty Cook several times.
Sure. So what you're saying is that sadly, Dungeons and Dragons is out of money. They don't have enough money laying around to develop their next product.
I don't think that's true. It's possible. And if we were talking about 3 or 4 years ago, I would be more suspicious of that. But now I don't think they're as cash poor as they are. But Wizards of the Coast has demonstrated repeatedly that, very much like Nintendo, if there is money on the table, they will not leave it sitting there. Okay? Part of the reason that they're so harsh on licensing and whether or not you can make products for Dungeons and Dragons and, the whole DM's Guild thing is so that they make sure they get a cut of absolutely everyone who is publishing anything for Dungeons and Dragons. A cut from. Okay? Whereas a company like Paizo, who is running under the Open Gaming license, they don't have to have that. They accept the fact that people will buy their products, but they're also very happy to let other products exist. And, they don't feel the need to go after everything. If they did, they would never have done the Open Gaming license thing. Pathfinder would have been all original content and it wouldn't have been takeoff of D&D. But that's, Wizards of the Coast does not like to leave money on the table. It's as simple as that.
You're right, they don't. Did you know, sir, that Hasbro CEO Brian Goldner was on the Jim Cramer show on CNBC a while back?
I missed that.
In fact, virtually the same day all these other announcements were going out.
Huh, what a weird coincidence.
What a coincidence. I know, it's amazing. Would you like to know what he had to say?
Sure.
Okay, unsurprisingly, Dungeons and Dragons is having its best year ever.
Which every healthy product should always be having its best year ever. I mean, if they sell one more copy this year than last year, they're having their best year ever.
Correct.
Okay, that is meaningless fluff.
And there is a lot of that sort of meaningless fluff thing going on here.
Well, yes,
right?
He's the CEO. It's his job.
Right.
He's Hasbro, chairman and CEO. Okay. Yeah.
But I pulled out what I think is probably the most interesting quote in this entire write-up and discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I read it to you?
Sure.
He, Brian Goldner, added that Hasbro's goal over time will be to build fantasy games like Dungeons & Dragons into esports properties ripe for esports competition, as consumers increasingly choose digital gaming over standard board games. End quote.
Okay.
I'm concerned by that statement.
Yeah. So. Honestly, I think he's more talking about Magic than D&D.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, especially because Magic has been going that way for a long time. That's what they would like it to be.
Well, they've got all those online ways to play Magic.
Yeah, and they're all terrible. Because, see, and this is the thing, like, I do have to apologize about the background noise. There is a massive thunderstorm rolling over right now, in case you hear that. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Wow.
Yeah. Magic they've been trying to make it go this way for a long time. But, the problem is that Wizards of the Coast is really bad with any electronic options at all.
No. Surely you jest.
Well, there is a rather famous quote from a couple of years ago where I can't remember who it was. I think it was Rosewater, but don't make me swear to that. Came out and said that Hearthstone was not a competitor for Magic the Gathering. Which just shows where their mindset was at the time. I don't know if they've changed that or whatever. But Magic is having all sorts of problems right now, and it's continuing to have problems. So if they don't pivot to something else, Magic is going to be in trouble. D&D, the article, because I'm reading the article as I'm saying this, the article you sent me, the Dungeons and Dragons is not something that they're looking into esports as much because it has a limited competitive scope. Though, quite honestly, it would, hear me out here. It would actually be kind of interesting. To see what was who are the guys the fourth edition? I think Source of Victory started it. It was hardcore 4th edition games based on old FPSs like Quake and Doom. Fourth Core.
Okay.
Right. There was a crowd of they're basically using the 4th edition D&D engine to run hardcore, ultra challenging, ultra violent player versus player games. Okay. Well, they weren't all player versus player. Some were player versus player. Some were player versus environment, but it's neither here nor there. The point is, that could actually be a very interesting use for the D&D engine. Because people are willing to sit and watch people play D&D. But what I think that's forgetting is that people sit and watch people play D&D on Twitch for very different reasons than people sit and watch people play Magic on Twitch.
Right.
You know? And I have to agree with because I think this is my honest take on this. Okay. Goldner, I'm not sure he's super cognizant of where Magic ends and D&D begins.
Oh.
Not because he gets the products confused, but because for Hasbro, D&D is a very small thing and Magic is a very, very big thing. So he probably really didn't want to discuss D&D too much. He probably wanted to discuss Magic more.
Right.
And he was getting questioned about D&D. So he pivoted the question back to fantasy games like Magic the Gathering and yada, 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 so that he could talk about something that he hoped would get the investors interested, which was, esports for games like Magic the Gathering. And because of the way the interview was going, Dungeons & Dragons got swept into that. And that's why later a spokesperson for Hasbro had to come out and say, yeah, he didn't mean D&D. He really meant Magic. I think that's what happened. Okay. I don't think esports and D&D is something that they would seriously, because Hasbro is a smart company.
Well, I'm just going to suggest
the poor
to you,
company
sir.
they own.
Yes. I'm just going to suggest to you, sir, that it might be interesting to actually have, say, a dedicated half-hour or hour-long program that you could turn on your TV in which people played D&D competitively in the same way they used to do at the Gen Con back in the day.
Like the Iron GM tournaments and the
scored modules, the whole 9 yards. Just take the Temple of Tamawakan as your model.
Yeah, and how many people would actually watch that?
I don't know, but it would be interesting.
Right. It would be interesting. I'm not denying that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still gonna say it. D&D is a niche game.
Yeah.
It's got a very niche fan base, and it's just, I mean, I think it can reach more people than it does. A lot more. But I don't think that reach is enough just yet for television shows and esports.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you that I think that would be an interesting way to go. And of course, it really depends on, the amount of time you've got.